This is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, and Jason Eidsmoe. We're talking Padres, Chargers, and Aztec sports.
Gotta hit it to the right place. And he hits it out to center. Right center. Blackman's got a long way to go. He's still going.
Off the wall.
And it is off the wall. It takes a funny hop. Kemp is rounding second. He's heading to third.
Gotta go.
And Matt Kemp into third base with a triple and the first cycle in the history of the San Diego Padres.
He will hand it off. Tomlinson plows his way towards the goal line. LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality. Tomlinson has tied the single-season record. And the handoff to Tomlinson. Left side, and he will gallop into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Pope thought about it. Now steps up. And the freshman hits the jumper at the buzzer.
Well, this kid is some prospect. Big time length, big time game.
Pope straightaway three. Count it. Malik Pope. Pope off glass and good. On the other end, Joel doesn't miss that one. Shepard alley-oop to Pope. He got up there. Oh, wow.
It's time to let your voice be heard.
All right. It is Wednesday. It's 7 o'clock. That means, of course, it's time for the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans.
By the fans.
That's
there you
right.
go. Josh Taylor.
Josh Taylor and Justin Smead in the house. My name is Jason Eidsmoe. Me, Justin, Josh, and Jake Hefner will all be taking you on your journey tonight. Real quickly, before we get to the important stuff, let's talk about the more important stuff. That is Sunday, August 28th, Cali Comfort, home of the Low and Slow Barbecue. We will be doing a live podcast from 8:30 to 10. It'll be a pregame podcast. The Chargers kickoff will be at 10 o'clock versus the Vikings. We will all be there, except Josh, of course, will be there in spirit. He's going to be playing with the cacti out there in Arizona. But Jake is bringing his, he's mushing down here with all of his Iditarod dogs, or however he's going to get down here from northern Canada. Justin's going to be there. Mikey's going to be there. I know the mayor, SoCal Trav, is going to be there, and lots of other people are going to be there. So please come out, help us support the Chargers, help support our podcast, and just have a great time watching the game. Now, with that all being said, let's say hi. How's it going there, Justin?
What's up, buddy? How you been?
I've been doing all right, man. How about you, Josh?
I've been doing great, Jason. Just loving this 175-degree weather out here.
I bet. And Jake, how's it going, my man?
Jason, I spilled my Ovaltine today.
On the way to work, huh? Happens to everybody.
That's a bad omen. That is a bad omen. Well, we might as well.
For the Chargers Day.
We might as well get into the most important thing that we have to discuss, and that is Sean Lissamore was placed on the IR with a bench.
Very important. Very important. Huge
Get
loss.
out of here.
Huge loss.
Love you, Jason. You're funny.
Joey Bosa. Now, looks like the Chargers are doing something that they kind of said that they weren't, and that's they're kind of going public with the negotiations. We all have a lot of opinions, and we all like to weigh in on that, but there's a reason why we have Jake as part of this, and he's the one who knows more about this than anybody. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it, Jake. What's going on with the Joey Bosa situation from his perspective and from the Chargers' perspective?
I'm actually going to defer, and I'm going to ask that we start with the other gentleman about this. I'm still in the process of putting my big boy pants on about this subject and getting my mind right.
Okay.
Because I'm not on the segments too much with Josh. I would actually love to hear what he has to say regarding this.
All right, Josh, it's all on you, my friend. Fill us in. What's your opinion on what's going on with the whole Joey Bosa saga?
Well, what I would really like to know, I would like to be a fly in the wall in the Joey Bosa room there, and want to know if this is Joey Bosa that's being an asshole, for lack of terms, or if it's his agent. And if it's his agent, he needs to get rid of that guy big time, because he doesn't realize the amount of money that he's going to lose And I'm not even talking about him playing for the Chargers, because right now at this point I could care less. But the fact that, he just, from a self-worth, you know how much money he's losing, you know how much bad publicity he's getting. And as we talked about before the show, and it's been posted in articles as well, as this goes on and gets beyond week 10, then he goes into the next year. He loses his rights to talk to anybody or work out for anybody, so he's going to go into next year's draft not being able to speak or perform in front of anybody, which is going to dramatically kill his overall wealth in the future. And he needs to think about that. It's not just, playing for the Chargers, this negotiation BS. He needs to think about the big picture, and I think he's stuck in the here and the now.
Well, one thing that I heard, I had read today, and I guess nobody really truly knows. We just all know what we've read, but seems to me that what I heard was that the Chargers offered, first of all, everybody defers signing bonus money. This isn't just a Charger thing. All the teams do this. The Chargers upped the amount of money they would give him up front and actually made him the second highest or the second most money up front. I don't know if that was a dollar-wise or a percentage-wise, but I know that put him basically in the range of a number 2 pick, which to me, just from hearing that, sounds to me like the Chargers are dealing in good faith. They're not going to just give him exactly everything that he wants, but to me it seems like they gave him an opportunity to declare victory and still come and play. It almost makes me wonder if he's really interested in, maybe he doesn't want to play for the Chargers. Maybe he does have a problem playing with the Chargers, or maybe he is afraid that he's going to be a bust, and he's trying to make sure he gets as much as he can. You're reading how badly he wants to play and how hard he's working right now. But the bottom line is, if he really truly wanted to come, and to me it seems like if he really truly wanted to play, or he wanted to play for the Chargers, he would be here right now. And the fact that the Chargers, basically they've said, hey, we've made this offer because, we want you to play 16 games. If you don't accept it by such and such time, that tells us you're not going to be ready to play 16 games, so we're not going to pay you like you're going to play 16 games, and they're going to start decreasing the offer. It's a real sad situation, and it's a bummer. But ultimately, I say if he doesn't want to play here in San Diego, then don't. Then go back into the draft next year and find somebody else to play for, because we only want people who want to be here. Justin, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are 85% of the contract is being given to you before the end of the year. That's their offer. That it blows my mind that this is all about deferred money. First, it was half before the end of the year, then half after the end, before the end of half of next year. So, for me, as a fan, just reading and listening, 85% of your money. I'm going to use the word everybody's using, asinine. It's really ridiculous to even think that a rookie that hasn't played a down, who has slotted money, was third overall, the Chargers are going way above and beyond what they normally do for any player ever, and they're going to give you 85% of that $18 million. Just take the flipping money, dude. Your career, it's not over, and it's not being ruined by any means, but your career's getting off to a really bad start here. I mean, it's bad. This is really bad. It's bad on both sides. 85% before the end of the year. I mean, what else do you want? I heard the Bosa, I don't know if this is true, I heard the Bosa camp came down a little bit. But what's a little bit? Now your wiggle room is 15%.
Right.
So what are you really coming down on? And then to reject 85%. I can't wrap my mind around this, guys, and I don't think I ever will. I mean, he's holding out, and he's missed all this time now, and we know how precious the time is, and the reps, and we see this kid's future for this season going down the toilet.
Is this thing even salvageable? Are we way past the salvageable
point?
No,
it's salvageable.
You think so?
Yeah, definitely. But it'll all be forgotten if he gets in camp now and he starts practicing now.
And making plays now.
Getting reps, and then eventually you're going to do 2 weeks of camp and then expect to be a starter on week 1 in Arrowhead. That's just not going to happen. So get in, do your time, toughen up a little bit, learn the scheme, and then you can play football. Just get into flipping camp, dude.
Before we go to Jake, go ahead, and Josh.
One more comment before we get to Jake, and this is just, I'm looking at numbers statistically. So the number 1 overall, Jared Goff, got $27.9 million. Carson Wentz, $26.6. So Joey, number 4 overall, $24.9. So you got to think that Joey Bosa is in about the $25 million range of his total contract worth.
Right.
Let's say this all pans out negatively. He doesn't sign. He goes into the draft next year, and maybe he's a late first-round draft. Well, number 29 overall got $8.6 million. So he's going to lose out on roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 million if he doesn't sign this contract with the Chargers and sign it soon.
And a year of prime football playing time for a sport that sometimes has people less than 3-year lifespan. Jake, help us out here, man. First of all, are the numbers that we have right, or are we off by what we're saying?
Numbers are 100% right in regards to this. As it was said earlier by Dean Spanos today, this is completely asinine that this entire process has gotten this far. And again, I've always taken a stance when I've talked about this for the last several weeks that there have been mistakes on both sides. Again, I don't necessarily agree for the fact that the Chargers, took all of this public, but at the same time, this type of stance, specifically with CAA, as a contract dispute approach, ultimately worked, and that was with Phillip Rivers back in 2004. But again, we're talking about a different time and a different CBA and a different type of agency type of situation, so it's not necessarily going to hinder the same type of results. But at the same time, at least you look at this from one perspective to say, well, it definitely sounds like the Chargers are the ones that are at least trying to get something done. It doesn't seem like there has been much effort at all, at least anything specific that we hear from Joey Bosa's camp, aside from the fact that they said that they had brought a rebuttal offer to them 2 weeks ago and the Chargers went completely dark right before the beginning of training camp. They said that they had brought something back to them and they hadn't heard from them in 2 weeks. And now that the Chargers come back to the table and they up their initial offer from 60% to 85% of the deferred money, like you guys said, for Jared Goff's conditions, because he is the number 1 overall pick, I believe that the conditions of his contract are the offset language automatically gets thrown out, so he doesn't have to worry about having to dispute with any of those type of terms. When it comes to money-wise, other than Carson Wentz, Joey Bosa is, according to the Chargers, right behind him in money-wise. And Ezekiel Elliott didn't even take anything close to what the Chargers are going to be potentially giving Bosa here with this 85%. So the interesting thing that I thought was when Joey Bosa's representative actually came out later in the day this afternoon, and if you guys read his statement, the part of it that really jumped out to me was the last paragraph that said, quote, "At this point, all we can do is continue to fight for a fair contract on behalf of our client, as we do with all of our clients. The Chargers can focus on trying to sway public opinion, but our focus will remain on our client and securing a contract for him that is fair and consistent with his draft position." And I thought that was interesting for the mere fact of saying that you fight for a fair contract on behalf of your client and doing what's right for your client. Well, the right thing to do for your client at this point in time is to get him into camp. Right. I don't know if his representation noticed, but they're representing an athlete, a 3rd overall pick in the National Football League, not somebody who's going after a lawsuit that is doing anything here, that is trying to collect all damages, but a guy who was paid by performance. He has still not taken one NFL snap in the league yet, and we are seriously debating over a set CBA that is already slotted in draft position as far as what his payout is going to be. So I don't understand the last sentence of saying getting fair compensation for where he is draft slotted.
That blows your mind. That blows your mind.
Yes, that is not the old way that the CBA is done. There shouldn't be any more negotiation terms here when it is in regards to a numbers type of standpoint. So this is unbelievable that it has gone on to this point in time. And you've heard the Joey Bosa camp come back in the past and saying, hey, we'll take one or the other. We'll take the deferred offset language, or we'll take, 100% guarantee. And obviously the Chargers were trying to meet them in the middle. They're still not going to give the offset language guarantee. But now, like you had mentioned, Justin, the camp said that they had come down a little bit on their guarantee demands. Well, how much?
Right.
What is it? 98% now? Is that what you're?
That's what I mean. Like, it's only a 15% margin of negotiation now.
Right. Right.
And you already came up to 85. I don't get it.
Yes. Again, it's baffling. Now, I've said this many times before. There have been mistakes that have been made on both sides. The Chargers have always talked about them not talking about contract disputes publicly. They made that specifically clear with the Eric Weddle situation. So I definitely don't like that it's come to this, but maybe this at the very end of the day was a last resort that they really had to put out there. And as far as damaging relationships goes, hey, maybe, when all things are said and done and Joey Bosa eventually signs his contract, maybe all will be forgiven. But I'll tell you what, everybody's talking today that he's staying in phenomenal conditioning shape. His positions coach at Ohio State came out today and said that he is staying in shape. He's ready to play. He's dying to play. That's a quote from his positional quote. Sure. And maybe that's all well and true. And maybe you are staying in phenomenal shape. But guess what? That's not the NFL speed.
No.
That might be your speed at Ohio State, but that's not who plays on Sundays.
No.
So the season might potentially be lost for Joey Bosa already in 2016, considering for the fact that whenever he decides to sign his contract and get into camp or get into the regular season, that he is not going to be in NFL shape, which leads to a higher risk of injuries or poor conditioning or not being able to perform up to the standards that you were picked at. Right. So the 2016 season already for Joey Bosa is looking very meager before it even begins.
Real quickly, I want to bring attention to the people in the chat room. We got Chris Hunter, Friar Blue, David Drogemeyer, who was on our show a few weeks ago. Few real things for future subjects for us to talk about this, because this is all stuff that's being brought up in the chat room, and then Josh has some things to say. But one of the things that's been brought up is first of all the John Spanos was the one that said it was asinine. That's and one of the things that was mentioned, I think it was I'm not sure who it was by anymore, saying that the Chargers are getting a lot of bad publicity about this whole Joey Bosa thing, and it's kind of interesting. Maybe the fact that they came out there to kind of turn the tables a little bit to let everybody know, hey, we're negotiating fairly here. It's the other side that isn't interested in negotiating. We can talk about that stuff, but I want to go ahead and give Josh a chance. He had something to say.
So as far as Joey Bosa is concerned, if I'm correct, his senior year in college statistically was pretty bad. And I think even Jake made a comment early on that he wasn't overly excited over the Joey Bosa situation.
I was not.
So I think he has things to prove on a lot of fronts. He has things to prove, obviously, by showing that he's a man and that he can stand up to his commitments and, show us what he can do. But he also has some statistical improvements that need to be made on the field as well. And like you guys have all said, he's missing valuable time. He's missing these training camps, these OTAs, all the things that are going to help him get ready for the NFL. He's missing all that. So even if he does sign his contract, when are we really going to see the Joey Bosa that we drafted? I mean, honestly, let's say arguably that he signs before week 1. Realistically, it might be week 5 or week 6 before we really see his potential, because he's going to be so far behind everybody else.
Plus, he's going to have to get over the hamstring that he pulls the first practice. Go ahead, Justin.
You know what the saddest thing, guys, is in this whole situation, and watching 2 preseason games now that we're under our belts and getting a feel for some of these players, which is so awesome to even just I can't wait to talk football with you guys, like actual football. But what I've been watching with Brandon Mebane and and having Corey Leggett, I was so excited before that, when they brought Mebane in as a free agent and then drafted Bosa, and watching Mebane now, I go, wow, he really can push that line and that pocket back into a quarterback, and he's made really good plays. And if you really watch him, he gets a double team a lot of the times, but he's kind of got that Jamal, and I hate to say it, but the Jamal Williams strength, lower body, and he'll take on a double team. But it's so nice to see, and wow, what could have been on week 1 in Arrowhead with Bosa on the left, Mebane in the right, and Legit over there, all together, and just that's what's sad about this whole thing. They could have formed a really nice trio there, and that's what really. It's not even him signing and money, and I wasn't the biggest Joey Bosa fan. I'm happy they picked him, but this has gotten out of control, and I'm mad for Charger fans because this is include us, the diehards that love and watch this team, blood, sweat, and tears. And what could have been this year is turning into kind of a shit show, because now you're relying on guys that haven't proven it yet, which we do like Tinny Palapoy, and we do like Carruthers, and we do like Darius Philon, but he's not Joey Bosa. They're not Joey Bosa. So that's what I'm most disappointed about.
Well, a couple more things on the Joey Bosa thing before we move, because there are other players on the team, and there are other players that are actually playing right now. Chris Hunter, he brought it up again. I want to discuss this a little bit. He says the bad publicity will affect them not only for the stadium situation, but for free agents and other draft prospects. Now, the stadium situation is interesting, and I think that's why the Chargers kind of basically announced it. Hey, this is what we're offering this guy, which is more than fair. Free agents-wise, I don't think it's really going to affect them because free agents come, they see the contract, they either sign it or they don't. So I'm not sure if that's going to affect it, but future draft choices. First of all, do you think that this bad publicity is going to affect any future have future effects on the stadium or for any of that stuff? We'll go ahead and start with you, Jake. It's been a while since we heard from you.
I mean, you've heard a bunch of national outlets talk about, the Chargers have a notorious history of not getting their first round draft picks signed. Well, when was the last time tell me when the last time of that was that it was? My recollection was Phillip Rivers back in 2004 was the last time anything like this had happened.
Right.
If you take the new CBA, which is what anything should be measured on as of this moment right now. So we implemented the new CBA in 2011? Uh-huh. Joey Bosa is the only player that has gone this far to sign. Now, is that a Chargers thing? That doesn't sound like it's a Chargers thing because every other draft pick, whether it's been Chargers since 2011 or every player up until right now for different organizations, has signed. So I don't care if it's the number 3 overall pick or not, because when you're weighing the options because of structured contracts and the way everything is laid out now, everything is fair. Everything is fair.
Yeah.
And for the fact that we're at this point now is ridiculous. And this should not be something that should sway people away from a contract dispute or that this is negative publicity for the stadium aspect. Because honestly, from a contractual debate, I don't believe that the Chargers are doing anything wrong here. I don't believe that they're being cheap. I think that they're weighing very fairly into negotiations with a player and an agency that truthfully don't think that they know what it is that they really want. And they're trying to squeeze every single dime and cent out of an organization as possible. And Josh, I'm glad that you alluded to the fact that I had spoke up about Joey Bosa several months ago. And trust me, I'm not sitting here saying that I told you so, because trust me, even I didn't know it was going to get
right.
I wouldn't have expected this. And I never doubted Joey Bosa's talent, but it was always a sense of entitlement from the Ohio State realm that has happened with several players past before, that these guys believe that they're rock stars or that they believe that they're entitled to something that they're not. Now, I'm not going to lump Joey Bosa in with the rest of Ohio State players because, strangely enough, one of his own is playing with the Chargers right now, and that's right. Josh Perry. And he's playing very well and battling as hard as he can, even for a 4th-round pick. So I'm not going to say that Joey Bosa is a marketing piece for negativity for Ohio State, not at all. But I just kind of got that sense about him prior to the draft. And as the months rolled on and we drafted him, and you heard his interviews and everything that was available for him as far as wanting to come in and the things that he said about wanting to come in and play football, I actually started turning my sense around and really liking this type of situation. And Justin, like you said, for the possibility of what could have been for this defense, to have all these different factors in there for as good of a player as Joey Bosa had put on his career in college. And to see all of this go down the tube, so to speak, when you have former players, not just from the Chargers organization, from Antonio Gates and LaDainian Tomlinson, but when you have players like Wes Welker and Antonio Cromartie coming out and saying literally the exact same things from what a player standpoint, point of view, believes in this league, is you earn your money. You earn it by playing on the field and performing up to your standards. Then you know that this is not something that is just circled around the Chargers organization. It is circled around everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is the concept of the National Football League, and this is the way that it's been built for years. Nothing has changed. So, hey, we're at a point now where, I mean, they say any publicity is good publicity, but not necessarily in this circumstance. But I don't believe that it's ultimately going to affect the stadium issue, and I don't believe it's ultimately going to affect free agents coming here, because free agents and signing a rookie draft pick is two completely different things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Joey Bosa is going to sign his contract. When that will be, we don't know, and what type of an impact he will have on this team when he ultimately does sign. Right now, it's looking very, very minimal.
Sad.
Go ahead, Josh.
So at the beginning of the situation, I was kind of on Joey Bosa's side. I'm thinking fucking same old Chargers, trying to, take advantage of these young kids coming in, because it has happened before in negotiations with Eric Weddle and whatnot. The Chargers try to get their way.
Eric Weddle's a different situation. I want to talk about
I know
that.
it is. I'm just making
because I was brought up in the chat room too.
But when his mom made that comment about Eli Manning,
man,
that lit a fire for me, and then I started seeing it the other way. The events that followed after that made me really feel that Joey Bosa doesn't want to be here. Joey Bosa does not want to play in San Diego. So pretty much he's like, all right, well, if you don't give me what I want, well, that's fine. I'll just go play somewhere else. And my wife made the comment today. She said from the moment she saw him drafted and watching this, she said it reminds everything of her to Johnny Manziel and his attitude, coming into the league. And I hate to make that, because Johnny Manziel's got other problems aside from the fact that, he's all about the money. But it does give you a little bit of that feeling.
Yeah, I've heard that Bosa's one of the guys coming out that actually didn't need the money. Not that you don't want $25 million or whatever they're offering him, but he's not one of those guys coming out of college, from what I've heard, that he's just absolutely poor, just trying to get a paycheck so he can start his life. I think his family has a little bit of money, so he's at least comfortable. Something was brought up in the chat room and then by Josh too, and they keep bringing up the whole Eric Weddle thing, and the chat room rolls so fast, so I can't remember exactly what was said, but basically he said that that Eric Weddle was affecting free agents, telling them not to come to San Diego. I need somebody to honestly tell me what the Chargers did that was so disrespectful to Eric Weddle. They signed him to what at the time I believe was the largest contract to any safety. They paid him every single penny of that contract. They didn't cut him. They didn't release him. They didn't do any of that stuff. They paid him every single penny of that contract. And the only thing they didn't do is re-sign him to a large contract again, because they thought that he was past his prime. And that didn't mean that they said, we think you're past your prime, so we're going to cut you now. They said, we'll let you play out this contract we signed you to, and when it's done, you can play wherever you want, because we don't think you're worth the money that you're asking. How is that disrespectful to Eric Weddle? How is that bad? What did they do to Eric Weddle? Eric Weddle, to me, is a big, excuse me, we don't talk like this very much, but he's a big fucking pussy. And that's all he was.
That's what I like to see from you. Fired.
I was fired now, Jason.
I'm so pissed off about Eric Weddle because I liked him so much. And he came up like a big crybaby pussy at the end of his contract. And I'm so tired of people talking about, they screwed Eric Weddle. They did nothing. They paid him every freaking penny that they owed him. Somebody tell me what they did wrong to Eric Weddle. Please, I'm listening right now. Tell me.
I'm wondering why or who pissed in your Wheaties this morning. I love your enthusiasm, your vigor, and your frustration, because this whole thing brings out all these old contract disputes or whatever. I totally agree with you, Jason, wholeheartedly. They decided not to sign him because
they don't have to.
They don't have to, and they think he was getting long in the tooth.
Yes, because he was.
Well, exactly, and that's my reasoning. But I've heard that banter too, where people are going, "Well, look what they did with Weddle." It has nothing to do with Weddle. Weddle fulfilled his contract and he left.
Yeah, the only thing they didn't do was sign him to an extension.
Exactly.
That's it.
No, exactly. And the Bosa situation completely different.
Yeah.
Than Eric Weddle, obviously. But no, I just think we, as Charger fans, we have to get ready for this season and not think about Joey Bosa. Don't even think about him, because what are we doing? It's like Phillip Rivers said, he's not here. He did an interview recently on one of the local stations, and he alluded to the fact that he's not here. We've never really played with him. We're not really missing what we didn't already have. So he said it wasn't like something that they're totally missing out on. It's not where the team gets together and goes, oh man, Joey Bosa's not here. They've never seen him play. So he brought up a good point, and I totally agree. I'm over it. I'm over the Bosa situation. Yeah. I'm ready as a fan to move on. I'm sure we're ready as a sports podcast to move on. We've been talking about this for about 3 or 4 weeks now, 5 weeks, and it's gotten ugly. It's gotten ugly, and I know the chat room has been fired up. I want to just real quick, I know Josh wants to touch on something. David in the chat room, thanks again, David, for coming on with us doing he does the Friar podcast, San Diego Sports Domination. Check them out. They're really good. One thing I will disagree with him, he says when Joey Bosa comes in and plays well, this whole situation is going to be a distant memory. I don't think so, and that's just my opinion. He'll come in and play well, but how many weeks from now? He's got to go through 4 weeks of camp and getting the plays down. And I know defensive end is in the hardest position to grasp. You really just kind of know your gaps and go after the quarterback once in a while. So. Particularly, I don't agree with that, but not to say he's wrong, not to say David's wrong. I'm just saying, in my own opinion, I don't agree with everybody's just going to love him right when he comes in and makes a sack. He's got to prove it all year long.
I'm not sure he's going to play well, but I think if he does come right in and play well, that this will all be forgotten. I'll forget it, that's for sure. Go, Josh.
This is for Jake. Jake, I couldn't ask the guys here before the show, and they didn't know the answer. And I'm hoping you do, but. Alluding to my original opening statement, if this goes on and he does not sign with us, do the Chargers get compensated in any way, shape, or form, or do they completely lose out on their opportunity to have a number 1 draft pick?
They get nothing. Yeah. And if Joey Bosa was to re-enter the draft next year, the Chargers would actually not be allowed to draft the same player, even if down at slot 29 or wherever he ends up. So literally, the Chargers get absolutely nothing. And if Joey Bosa was looking for the ultimate revenge and his agency looking for the ultimate revenge, that would truly be it if he was looking to do something. Because up until the day of next year's draft, the Chargers own his rights. He can't do anything.
The ultimate revenge would be to sign with the Raiders.
I don't think that would be.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
One thing I will say to close out this, and I think you guys can all agree, because we've had certain situations like this where we've made certain predictions, and not just relating to Joey Bosa, but in other things in the past where it hasn't ended up coming to fruition. As in fact, it's actually gotten worse. But I'm going to pound the table right now, and And Justin, I am not blaming you for this. I know you and Jason both were being very positive yesterday, especially when the plane was in Fort Lauderdale. But
I got excited, dude. I really got excited.
Hey, you and the rest of social media got very excited. I mean, they ended up, making a story about it later, just trying to connect the dots. And hey, lo and behold, the organization wasn't there as far as the people that were supposed to be on the plane, but there were still apparently talks going on. So there was something to be had with that. But I'm going to make a stance right now saying that for this show, for this group of individuals here, no more Bosa predictions.
Let's not do that.
I agree. My hand's in the air. I promise.
Let's ban.
I do want to apologize for all that yesterday. I was so giddy. I'm like, sweet, they're going to get him in. They're in Fort Lauderdale. They're going to sign him. They're going to bring him back. It's going to get 2 to 3 weeks of prep. I go, he could even rotate on week 1. He could be in a rotation, and no, and it's just so crappy. And my bubble deflated, and my balloon, and I'm pissed now.
I am bummed because I was pretty sure that they didn't get compensation, but I did not know that they're not allowed to draft him again because next year when we have the very last pick in the first round, I was hoping Bosa would still be available and just draft him anyways, just to mess with him. But like David said in the chat room, I still think that if he comes in and he plays well, then it'll all be forgotten and we'll all move on. With that being said, we've got a whole lot of other Chargers to talk about. There's been 2 preseason
There's 89 other guys on this roster.
Yes.
And I was really excited, like Justin alluded to, I was really excited to come on here and start talking about the performance from Arizona.
Yes.
That's the whole
We've
thing.
now been handcuffed to talk 37 minutes about Joey Bosa's stalemate situation that has gone from bad to worse.
Yes.
Handcuffed. We've been buried. We've been
Yes. I'm now I'm starting to pump back up again, and now I refilled my Ovaltine.
Nice.
I am ready to talk about everybody else.
Everybody needs a fresh cup of Ovaltine in their life.
Let's start right here. Let's start with the easiest conversation so far, and that's going to be the quarterbacks. We had planned on Phillip Rivers sitting out the second game. He did the same thing last year, so there's no surprise there. What was interesting is Bercovici got the whole second half. Clemens got the whole first half. What were your thoughts?
Exactly.
It sounds to me like I can hear Jake clapping about Bercovici.
That is me clapping.
Yes.
I thought he certainly looked sharp. I'm not. See, you guys know what I feel. I feel the Chargers should carry 2 quarterbacks and no more. So while Bercovici did look sharp and he did look solid, he didn't look like the type of guy that's ready to take over for Phillip Rivers when he retires. And if that's the case, for me, I still say stick with Kellen Clemens, but I don't think he looked bad. What was also interesting to me was the fact that have the Chargers already decided that Mettenberger just doesn't have a shot anymore. Go ahead, Justin. What's your thoughts on the quarterback situation, what you saw, what you liked, and what you think?
Well, I would have gone with Jake first because he was clapping in enthusiasm, but I am going to go first because I would have clapped in enjoyment as well. I just didn't. I didn't. Bercovici, to me, looks great. Obviously, he's got things to work on. We all can see that. But I think the upside is crazy good. I don't think Mettenberger even touched the field, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
He touched the bench.
He touched the bench, and he probably touched some other things. But I'm not a fan.
He threw
the most professional
podcast in San Diego County. No, but you know what I'm saying? From day one, I didn't like the Mettenberger signing, and I've been an advocate. He's garbage, and he's here because of Ken Wisenhunt. He's getting a shot to put his tape on his film for other teams, so to say. So getting Burke in there, I like the way he moves around. He adds another element to the quarterback position. This is the problem for me. When we're talking Kellen Clemens, I'm just not sold. I love that he can complete some passes, and he was working with some second stringers. He just doesn't always look comfortable in the pocket at times. He's just I don't know the word, but it's eluding me. But he's wiry in a way, and he's got the veteran presence, but he doesn't seem like the guy. And I feel like I guess he's the best veteran presence you have on that on the roster, but Bercovici seems like that guy that you need to hold on to somehow, some way. And it's nice to have Clemens in there, and he made some completions, and he did pretty well. But I don't feel safe with Clemens. I don't know what Jake thinks, but that's just my take on it. That's the one thing. I didn't want to see Mettenberger in the game. That's all.
Now, Dan Fouts is, I don't know. Dan Fouts, I always have a soft spot in my heart because he was my quarterback when I was growing up, my favorite quarterback. Sometimes he says things that, I'm 43, I'm a man.
Boy.
Some things that he says is a little bit weird. One of the things he said was Kellen Clemens was one of the highest rated backup quarterbacks, whatever that means, because he hasn't thrown the ball that much. So it's not quarterback rating. I'm not quite sure where he got that from. But that was interesting. Real quickly on Mettenberger before we give Josh a chance. We always talk over Josh. Poor Josh never gets a chance to talk. One thing about Mettenberger that I'll say is I don't think he's very good. I think he's garbage as well. But I still loved them bringing him in because it was a no risk at all. If he comes in and he plays well, great. And if he doesn't, you can cut his ass, which he's going to probably be part of the first cuts. Josh, what are your thoughts on the quarterback situation? Did you like what you saw out of Bercovici and Clemens, or which one are you leaning towards? Are you leaning towards both of them?
Personally, I mean, I think you got to stick with Clemens just for the fact that he's the most seasoned of the group.
Yep.
But if Bercovici goes out there and puts a friggin' show on again against who we're playing,
Vikings.
The Vikings. If he goes on and puts another show against the Vikings, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows, and he might start winning some people over, in my opinion. I'm just bummed that Brad Sorensen didn't get a chance.
That's right. I forgot that you're such a big Sorensen fan. I forgot about that.
Somebody just picked him up, by the way. I forget who, but
I think it was actually the Vikings. Ironically enough.
Oh, how funny! They want to throw touchdown passes on us later this week.
They want to get all the intel they can against the Chargers to win this big third preseason game. Apparently, when I started talking about Bercovici, Jake had to turn his lights on and off real quick with his clapper. Jake, what were your thoughts on the quarterback situation, and where do you think the Chargers are leaning towards 2, 3, or 4 quarterbacks?
First off, I loved the fact that not only did Bercovici start the second half, but he played that entire second half. And I thought to myself, after the third quarter was over, that he was only going to get one quarter. And the fact that they left him in really shows you the way that he has impressed the coaches already in such a short time on that team. And, I thought that he showed great poise in the pocket, certain mobility, but most of all his accuracy. If you noticed where he was putting the ball, it was only where his receiver can get it. And especially to convert, 3 or 4 big third down and long plays. I mean, a lot of stuff that was even difficult for Phillip Rivers to overcome last year. I mean, we were horrible on third down. And when you see a rookie quarterback undrafted like that come in and do this, albeit be a preseason game, but for him, it's one of the biggest games of his life to prove in such a short period of time, if it's not for the Chargers, for somebody else about why he belongs in the NFL. I still believe that, from the talent that we have now at the quarterback position, do I believe that Bercovici is, the next coming for the replacement of Phillip Rivers? Absolutely not. He definitely has a hell of a lot of work to do. Phillip Rivers is going to be the starter for this team for a while. But can you imagine what a Bercovici would be like 3 years from now, learning under the systems from the type of things that we've seen from him early? I think Kellen Clemens is still, your best option as a backup quarterback. Even though I didn't think that he was that impressive, for that first half, as it got close to the end of, towards halftime, he actually started to pick up the offense a little bit. If you noticed, he was actually getting the ball out a lot quicker.
Tempo.
To his receiver, yes, he was able to pick up the tempo. But it took a while for him to get there. But at the end of the day, you look at the depth chart, he still is the best option for, the backup quarterback. He's in a contract year for himself. So who's to know?
Jake, let me banter with you a minute, and we'll go back and forth here. Speaking on Burke, I just love the kid. I don't know why. I think we all do, but I think he would be I think it would be perfect to keep on this team, and I wouldn't be shocked if they got rid of a Clemens. Now, could you imagine Berkovici, if he keeps continuing to play, he doesn't seem rattled. He doesn't seem nervous. The poise, to me, sticks out. He takes command of the huddle. He looks confident when he's playing. I know that doesn't matter when you're in a real NFL game, but going forward, if he continues to make the plays and these third downs, and can you see him knocking off a Kellen Clemens? Because I would love to go with a younger guy. And if they look, Drew Brees was 6 feet tall too, and he's made a hell of a living in the NFL. There are guys that can play this game without being very tall. So we all remember Doug Flutie. We love those days. But I love this kid. I think if the staff gave him a chance and get the knowledge and it's obviously different skill set between Phillip and Berkovici, but get some knowledge from him and groom him that way and up in the brain. I think this could be a great find for the San Diego Chargers.
I mean, I agree with all the points that you just said. Do I believe that it's possible for him to leapfrog Kellen Clemens? No, I don't. For as seasoned of a veteran as Kellen Clemens is, and for as long as he's been in the NFL and the familiarity that he has with this organization and particularly the offense, Berkovici in such a short period of time to do something like that would be it's astronomical odds. But at the same time, he is getting his opportunity right now. And again, for the fact that he was able to not only start the second half off over Zach Mettenberger, who just a week ago was above him in the depth chart, and to stay in there for the remaining half until the clock was at 000, shows you already the type of value that the coaches are putting on him. And to say that we honestly believe that this is someone that we're going to keep around and gives it a better shot of the Chargers keeping 3 quarterbacks this year. Now, whether it's Kellen Clemens or it's Mike Berkovici, if we were to happen to see either one of them play this year, it's not good.
Sure. Yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah. So,
I'm not saying. I just think a few years down the road, this kid can, with his mobility. Right. I'm not saying any of that. And another thing, and I hate to interrupt you, but the Mettenberger.
No, you don't.
No, I do. I really do, because I just wanted to make a point to him, because I feel like if they're not going to even put Mettenberger in a game and they want to go with Burke, man, how poorly has Mettenberger been in practice?
Yeah,
that's bad.
I'll say the biggest difference. I mean, I've named off a number of differences between from what I saw from Berkovici, not only in training camp, not only when I wrote about him several weeks ago, as far as what you put on paper when you look at Zach Mettenberger and when you look at Mike Berkovici. Obviously, the physical intangibles, the familiarity with the offense. Mettenberger has all of that going for him right now. But the thing that makes the difference is the poise and the confidence. When one thing goes wrong for Zach Mettenberger, he cannot put it behind him. Every quarterback makes mistakes, every single one. But it's how do you respond to the mistake that really, really matters. And that is the difference of where Mike Berkovici has the mental intangibles that it takes to be an NFL quarterback in this league, and why he is the superior quarterback, in my opinion, to Zach Mettenberger. And those are the type of things that ultimately coaches are going to notice. And for the fact that he is a leader, for the fact that he is a gamer, he plays with a good, in my opinion, I've said this over the last couple of weeks, it's a combination that I see between Drew Brees from a physical standpoint, and from a playmaking tenacity standpoint, I see Phillip Rivers.
Right.
Literally, it is a draw down the line with a little bit of Russell Wilson mixed in there as well for mobility. So
very good comp, man. That's good comp.
I definitely see so much potential for this kid, and I can't wait to see what he's going to be able to do to close out these last 2 weeks, especially in Week 4. And I'm all for the Chargers keeping 3 quarterbacks on this roster if Berkovici is going to be one of the 3.
He can take Bosa's spot.
So with Burke, with Burke, it was funny. So obviously, I live in the Valley of the Sun now, and because we played the Cardinals, I get to hear the Cardinals telecast. So I got no Chargers talk. I got no Chargers sideline, interviews and anything like that. It was all Cardinals. But when he came on the field, I thought I was listening to ESPN talk about Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. It was a slobber fest. They were all over him.
Well, he is from Arizona. He did play in Arizona.
They couldn't rave enough about this guy, saying, that he's got all the tools to be a starter in the NFL. They were really sad to, see him go because they really thought that he was going to be the guy to, take Carson Palmer's place. And the Chargers got a steal, and if they get rid of him, that they really hope that the Cardinals will try to bring him back because they really truly feel like he's got all the tools to be an NFL quarterback and be an NFL quarterback in the short term.
Joshua, he was an undrafted free agent.
He was on Arizona State. He played for
Arizona State, brother.
Yeah. Hey, Jake, real quickly, David Drogmeyer in the chat room. A couple of things on that. Talking about Zach Mettenberger, he's just looked terrible, which I think we've all seen that. But
terrible.
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 Berkovici, his worries are he's a little bit small, which is my worry as well, and he thinks that he's going to end up on the practice squad, which would be awesome to have him on the practice squad, give him one more year of practice, and then maybe have him be the
he wouldn't last long
second
there.
Quarterback. That was my question. Would he even make it to the practice squad? Because if somebody else be willing to carry him on their roster? You think if the Chargers aren't?
It's really hard for me to fathom where he would find a better deal. I mean, if you can tell me that at this point right now, after seeing 2 weeks of action for Berkovici, I know that we're talking him up, and I still believe in all the potential that he has. But do you truly believe that an organization right now would say, for example, if we were to use the Rams, and let's just say for case and argument that Jared Goff was going to be the starter come day one, do you think that the Rams would believe that Mike Berkovici is better than Case Keenum?
No.
To oversee on their roster?
No.
I honestly don't think that there's 31 other teams out there that don't have their backup quarterback situation really locked up that much, maybe a handful at most, that would say, Burke, we'll bring you over to us, but you'll also be on the practice squad. Well, in that circumstance, why wouldn't he just stay with the Chargers? And for the fact that I think of what you're seeing the Chargers do so early in giving him all these reps, I think is an early indication to them how much they value him, and I think that those type of things are going to go a long way with Burke ultimately signing on the practice squad in the long run.
Couple things. Josh did have to go, so Josh just cut out. He was only going to stay with us 15 minutes, so he went way over that. So we appreciate Josh. Any chance we have to have him part of the conversation is awesome.
Miss that man.
He is the OG, He's the original. He's the one who started this whole thing.
Gangsta.
Chris Hunter and a couple guys in the chat room, and me included, I think if the Chargers try and it's a real weird situation because I don't like carrying three quarterbacks, and I do think that somebody will grab Berkovici because he's shown enough, not to tell you that he's ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL right now, but he's shown enough potential, enough, all the little comparisons that you made, all these things that if he improves on all of them, he could be a dynamic quarterback. And the only other thing that I will say right now is if Phillip Rivers goes down for a long stretch, Kellen Clemens won't lead us to the playoffs.
No.
So he won't. He just won't.
No.
As good of a solid of a backup as he is, he won't lead us to the playoffs. Now, if Phillip Rivers goes out and maybe misses a quarter or two, you always see in the NFL guys like Berkovici come in and they can be that little spark plug. They can come in, they can make a few things happen. They can maybe win you one game. In an extended time, he won't do it this year. He won't. Sure. But we don't have anybody on the roster who would. Go ahead, Justin.
No, and I was just going to say, you hit it on the head, but what if that game is a playoff game? What if that game is trying to get in the playoffs? You'd much rather have him in there than Berkovici.
Yeah, I'd rather
trying to get his first start under his belt.
Yeah.
I do agree with that wholeheartedly. Not to knock Berkovici, obviously he's a rookie. So, right. But God, man, if we don't keep him on the roster, I feel like in a few years, Burke could be a guy that could step in and actually potentially be a starter.
Yeah, I agree, and it's going to be interesting where they go. I think we'll have more to talk about as cuts come down. Let's move on to the offensive line.
Okay.
Here
we go, boys.
Oh, the mayor just got into the chat room.
Uh-oh. SoCal Trav.
Here we go. Let's move on to the offensive line now.
Did you want to run a commercial?
No, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. We'll take what we can. We'll take the conversation as we can.
Sounds good.
Sponsors right now are pissed.
Yeah. As soon as Ovaltine starts kicking down some Ovaltine money, then we'll be.
Ovaltine's been slacking on their checks.
We'll
to us
run
too.
a commercial every 10 minutes if that's what it's going to take. DJ
Have
Fluker.
Seen any royalties come out of that, by the way, Justin?
Yeah, we got a 37-cent check the other day, but that's about it.
Not even enough to buy Ovaltine.
No.
The DJ Fluker in a boot. His MRI came back negative. I guess that's good news. I had seen Jake chatting online. I believe. Oh man, I'm trying to remember who it was with. By the way, any of you out there, you guys should follow him at Jake T. Hefner because he's a real good follow, and
it's a good banter.
He goes back and forth. I love reading back and forth. They had suggested moving Slauson to guard and bringing back possibly Trevor Robinson and his roller skates. My thought on that real quickly is we know what we have with Trevor Robinson. The only way, my ultimate place I want to see Slauson is at guard, but I don't want to see Robinson at center. I want to see I just lost his name, man. Turek. Yeah, thank you. I want to see him playing center. So my question is he ready to play center if Luke's out for an extended period of time? And the second thing, if he's not ready to excel at center, I would rather find a second-tier guard than work with a second-tier center because we know what it's like to work with second-tier centers, and it's been horrible the last few years. I say leave Slauson at center, and let's try and plug the hole at guard. And my third question is, where the heck is Chris Watt? What's going on with Chris Watt? Is he ever going to play again?
No.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jake, with all of that, and then we'll have Justin weigh in.
Yeah, I actually loved this conversation. It was with Geppetto earlier this week.
Yes, Geppetto, yeah, that's right.
And there were a lot of interesting points that were actually brought up. And, the biggest one that I still just drew my head back to was camaraderie along the offensive line. And what I believed was, whether you were moving Slauson to guard and replacing the center position, whether it was Turek or Robinson or whatever it was, you were now moving two pieces along the offensive line rather than just replacing the one of Fluker's absence with either Kenny Wiggins or the undrafted free agent Spencer Pulley. And, you look at this type of situation and, when we've seen how many different offensive line combinations that the Chargers have had to go through over the last 2 years, you need, with this team in particular, you can't just plug and play and expect no flaws. It just doesn't work, especially with the center position.
Yes.
It just does not work. It is too difficult to handle those type of responsibilities. And I think since Slauson's arrival, I think he has definitely made the players around him a lot better with his attitude, with his poise, with his leadership on a multitude of different levels. So I think where he has succeeded, and because he has spent this entire camp now getting ready with Phillip Rivers, I don't think it's risky to take that type of an asset away from Phillip at that standpoint. So I think your best odds are going into the next couple of weeks. Again, the MRI on DJ Fluker, thank God, was negative.
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly how much time he is going to miss. It was a good point that was brought up by Gelkin in his article about it earlier this week, that last year we thought the worst for DJ Fluker in week 1, where he left on a cart and then ended up being only a high ankle sprain, and he only ended up missing 1 week of action and came back in week 3 against Minnesota last year. So this could be just a standpoint of, hey, maybe Fluker is out only for the next 2 weeks, and he is ready to go by the time Kansas City on September 11th rolls around. So for the time being, why not get some of your depth guys some reps with the ones, specifically just at one position, and use that to really see what you have and focus on one position rather than going through the guessing game and figuring out, well, what offensive line combination is going to work best? What best 5 guys are going to man our starting offensive line unit. So that was really the logic that I kept bringing myself back to, just as far as what would work best for Phillip Rivers ultimately, and what would work best for the other 4 guys that are along the offensive line.
What about Louis Vasquez? Louis Vasquez has been brought up. I saw that was brought up in your chat back and forth, and it's in the chat room right now by Bolt Pride Movement. He was a real solid guard for us. He went to Denver. He played real solid for them too. They even had him at tackle a little bit. Why is he still a free agent? Is he somebody that the Chargers have thought about, or is that somebody that's possibly available?
I don't know if it's someone that they've thought about. I mean, it's an interesting possibility considering the fact that, hey, he was drafted by the Chargers in the 3rd round several years back. He's familiar with the system. He is a better
He's only
pass
29.
block. Yeah, he is a better pass blocking guard than he is a run blocking guard. I don't know if that's anything that's deterred teams as far as not looking at him. I don't really see why it should, considering the fact that there's 31 other teams in this league who have offensive line problems. Right. It may even be from a money standpoint, considering the fact that Louis signed for a pretty sizable contract when he ended up leaving San Diego, and now for the fact that that's over with, he could definitely be brought in on the cheap. That is for sure an option. I don't think that that's something that's outside the realm, but I think that considering the fact that the Chargers have guys now that have been in Whisenhunt's system, Kenny Wiggins now for a couple of years, and now you've got a guy in Spencer Pulley there's been a lot of hype around this guy.
Right.
He made his career at Vanderbilt as a very highly rated center, especially coming out of the draft. He was very highly rated at the center position, but ultimately ended up going undrafted. Why? Because he played at Vanderbilt. But now you have potential to use this kid at guard, and he's been in there getting first-team reps. So maybe the potential of Louis Vasquez coming in may not be until you actually see what you have with a Kenny Wiggins or a Spencer Pulley ultimately at that guard position.
And like David Drogemeyer says in the chat room, we got to see what the severity of DJ's injury is. Like you said, it could be something where he's just out a week. One thing that the Chargers do, which I actually like, you want to know, but at the same time, I like the fact that they kind of keep this stuff close to the vest. They don't go out there and try and they won't give you more information that's needed, and they don't have to tell you what's wrong with them right now. They don't have an injury report for preseason, so that's fine with me. Moving on, Travis Benjamin finally got some time out on the field. He made this big statement how he said he's so happy with the team that he played with, that he decided to come with the Chargers and all of that, and we've been talking a lot about him. I know it was only one game. I wasn't impressed. I saw him drop a couple balls. I don't know what we're expecting with our punt returns. I guess we're all hoping to see someone break one for 60 yards or something, just because it's been so long since we've seen anything.
Anthony Miller, Andre Coleman. Yeah. It's not going to happen, guys. Come on.
I hope that I know he was a little bit injured, and maybe he's still trying to and I know he's looked good in practice too, but I honestly wasn't overly impressed. I'm not telling you that I don't like him, and I'm not telling you that I don't think he's going to be good. What are your thoughts so far, Jake? Or no, we'll start with you, Justin. What are your thoughts so far on Travis Benjamin, what you've seen so far, and what you think we're going to get out of him this year?
Well, I don't think we can label him yet. These few starts, he looked like he was playing his first game.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I saw the comeback route I think you're speaking of, and a couple other routes. That happens though. You got to get the timing down. Phillip wasn't even in the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's mind you of that too.
David Drogemeyer just said that too in the
I think what Phillip had alluded to in practice, or I think it was before game, one or the other. Somebody can correct me on that. But he had made a statement. He goes, one of the best. I think it was during the Arizona Cardinals training camp is what he said. His favorite play of the camp was him and Benjamin hooking up on a curl route. Yeah. And the ball was placed perfectly. And he said Phillips, he's a technician. He loves stuff like that. That's what he loves. So for him to say his favorite play of the camp or that day was a curl route by Travis Benjamin. That's phenomenal. That's Phillip at his finest. He's a perfectionist at his craft. He likes to get things done, and he said the rapport with him is going to grow, and that's why they brought him in here, guys. They didn't really bring him in here to run curl routes, in my opinion. I think maybe he was just in that slot, and maybe what route he needed to run at that specific time. He's going to be blowing the doors off the top end, and providing that deep threat, as we all know. When you got Tyrell Williams, Keenan Allen, and now James Jones in the mix, we're going to see a lot of Travis Benjamin set up in the slot. They're going to move him all over the place. I hope they move him in the backfield. I'd love to see him get some fake reverses, and real reverses for that point. Just trickery and use his ability to the most, his capability.
What were your thoughts on Travis Benjamin there, Jake?
Justin said it best. It looked like it was his first game. I mean, and not to knock the kid, I know he's, our big free agent acquisition coming here to, replace Malcolm Floyd. But again, this just goes to show, as much as we loved what we were hearing from Travis Benjamin in practice, how different it is when it comes to game time. And even preseason game time.
Yeah.
This is why these type of are so important. And, he had battled, an injury at an early part in camp, so he was recently just getting back to it. He wasn't able to play the first week around. Finally got some brief playing time this last week against Arizona. But again, for what he is ultimately going to be used for is to, take two people with him, because he is going to be burning people one-on-one, and he is going to be your legitimate deep threat for this team. And, I think his value is definitely going to be very good in that once you get the chance to see, what it is that he can do in this offense with a very, good quarterback at the helm, as opposed to something that he did not have in Cleveland. And so, this is just a progression thing for him. And, by the time we're talking about week 1 in Kansas City, I think he'll be ready to go and ready to make a big impact for this offense.
Now, somebody that I've got to give you guys both credit. You guys have been on this guy's bandwagon from the moment he came to the Chargers last year. Tyrell Williams.
We'll take credit.
I am so impressed with what I see this year over last year. I didn't see things that made me not like him last year. There are things that I saw, I said, oh, he looks like he's going to be pretty good. He got some downfield speed, all that type of stuff. I really like what I've seen so far from him in the first 2 preseason games. I know it's only preseason, but I am really, really happy with what I see with Tyrell Williams. And this might be a little bit crazy, but I wouldn't mind seeing him line up opposite Keenan Allen starting week 1. What are your thoughts on that, Justin?
Well, I mean, I know me and Jake like this kid from day one. I remember when they got, undrafted free agent, I went immediately to YouTube just to see what he was about, and I think that's what we all do as fans. But the way, and he was in a crappy conference. I mean, it wasn't like he's playing in really good competition, but just the way he got up and down the field, the speed, and the way he went up for balls, it kind of gave you a glimpse of, almost like, and I'm not going to compare the two, but in a small comp to Vincent Jackson, that guy that could go up and get to the highest point and grab a ball. But even saying that, even in a crossing route, the guy has sure hands. He doesn't seem like he's afraid to take a hit, which is very refreshing. Some guys are very hesitant over the middle. But, yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I mean, this guy's been great. The comments out of camp has been unbelievable praise for this kid. Works hard, keeps his nose to the grindstone. He is always looking to get better, and I just go off what Phillip says. He goes, and he kind of gets a grin when he talks about Tyrell Williams. He loves throwing the football to him, and they're getting a relationship down now in year 2, which all Charger fans should be excited about.
Jake, has he solidified? Has he made this team already? Is that a done deal?
Done deal, my friend. I mean, this guy has proven it the old-fashioned, and remind me if I'm correct, he wasn't a 3rd round overall pick. He was an undrafted free agent, right?
Correct.
Yes, exactly.
Just making sure.
just making a point.
Just making a point. This is the testament of what hard work gets you. And you could say whatever you want about him playing in a crappy conference coming up from Western Oregon, but this guy, if you go back and you find articles from last year that centralize around Eddie Royal, the time that this kid put in after practice, and obviously, Eddie Royal being a great leader that he was, not last year but 2 years ago is when the situations took place. Eddie Royal as a mentor to what he was able to do for Tyrell went such a long way.
Yeah.
Or excuse me. I apologize. I'm thinking of Dontrell Inman.
Dontrell Inman, yeah.
My bad.
Dontrell Inman's the one who worked with Eddie Royal.
Yes, excuse me. It was more of Malcolm Floyd that was the biggest mentor.
Floyd, yeah.
Tyrell Williams. The work that Tyrell was doing off the field and the extra reps that he was getting and taking his time out and staying after practice and getting all of the mental reps that he needed. And I can't really, put into context that ultimately the type of things that pay off, because an opportunity will rise for anybody in this league who puts in the hard work for a team and shows every bit of potential that they can. And the old saying goes, it doesn't matter how many reps you get, it's how many reps you make count that are out. And whether we're talking in practice, whether we're talking in preseason games, or for the biggest culmination for Tyrell, we had no receivers left when it came to week 17 of last year.
Right.
And he showed the potential of what he can do. And he waited patiently all year long to have that type of an opportunity, and to see that translate into what it is now for the opportunity that he has is so refreshing for another kid. And it really just it's one of the positive things that the Chargers have seemed to be consistent with every single year, is finding an undrafted gem that ends up in coming out and making a big impact on this offense, or defensively, whichever way you want to look at it. They've been able to do this consistently year in and year out.
Tyrell Williams last year, you're right, at the end we were out of receivers. He was out there. He looked he had that big 80-yard touchdown or whatever like that, but he didn't look like he was quite ready yet for the NFL. What a difference this year. What a difference the offseason has made. He looks like he is an NFL wide receiver, a starting NFL wide receiver. Now, another Williams out there that's been talked about in the chat room, Dom Williams, had a few nice catches. Most likely not going to make the team. You see a future with him, though, possibly catching on with the practice squad, and maybe a year or two down the road, possibly seeing Dom Williams out there in lightning bolts?
He's making a case for it, that's for sure. I mean, for the passes that he caught from Berkovici in the third and fourth quarter, he was laying out. He had to lay out for some of those for where they were at, but he showed good hands. He caught balls in traffic. Again, I never normally we wouldn't say this about our wide receiver core as far as how deep it is, but it is deep this year. The Chargers currently have 11 wide receivers that they're going to have to siphon through here before it ultimately comes down to final cut day. And when you look at the camp battles from obviously the big Isaiah Burst coming out party that was a couple of weeks ago in practice, and now you've got Dom Williams, and now you've got even DeAndre Reeves that's factoring himself into it a little bit, on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Again, we're still looking for one of these guys, because all three of these guys can potentially be your kick returner or your punt returner, because Javonte Herndon has not been able to practice for weeks. So it might come down to it where Javonte Herndon doesn't even have a roster spot come this year. One of these guys might be able to take his spot. And when you see Isaiah Burst getting reps with the ones, again, you're seeing what a coach sees in the potential of this kid and the value that they're putting on him. So, you talk about Javonte Herndon, who normally wouldn't even practice or play a game with the ones.
Yeah.
And now you're getting Isaiah Burst that's getting reps with the ones. And trust me, there is a battle going on at the wide receiver spot right now that is unlike anything the Chargers have experienced in a very, very long time. And probably the most competitive position that is out there right now, because I'll tell you what, each one of these guys has something to be valued. Each one of them can bring something to the offense and to special teams especially. So it's going to be interesting come cut down day. But all in all, I thought Dom Williams had a great game. We'll see what he can do these next couple of weeks, but he definitely caught a lot of people's eye for the catches that he was making out there in week 2.
Now, we're not going to probably have time to go every position today, but so I'm going to bounce it around a little bit. I'm going to jump back to safety right now. Somebody who really stood out for me in the first game, we didn't have a chance to talk about it, unfortunately, last week, and I do apologize, by the way, to those of you for missing last Wednesday. That was on me, and we're trying real hard to not miss any Wednesdays, but sometimes things come up. So we're going to bounce back to the first game, and that was Dexter McCoyle. He looked like he was all over the field when he was out there. He was breaking up passes. He was getting in there and kind of laying some lumber, and I think he even picked up a fumble on the run, which was awesome. When you can see somebody fumble the ball and somebody just scoops it right up, it doesn't get bounced all around. I was pretty impressed with what I saw the first game. Second game, I don't want to say I wasn't impressed. I just didn't really see anything from him in the second game that really stood out. Safety-wise, what's your thoughts, Justin, at the safety position right now? I know we talked about the big crybaby Eric Weddle is gone, so we gotta fill those shoes. So far, I've actually liked what I've seen. I've liked what I've seen from Dwight Lowry. Jaleel Adai, boy, another guy who just really seems like he's stepped up. There's been nobody more critical of him than me, and not that I don't like him, but I've just been very critical of what I've seen from him, and boy, he not even counting that interception, just he really looks like he's a leader out there making some plays. Overall, from the safeties, what have you liked and maybe not liked so far?
And I'll go with what Jake said. This is going to be a tough decision for the staff as well. Let's not disinclude, Adrian Phillips.
Right.
These guys are making plays. Jaleel Adai, Dwight Lowry. And you know what the best part is, guys? They look like they're having fun.
Yes.
The secondary as a unit, let's not overshadow that if we don't get to the DBs. But I just love the enthusiasm these guys have. And I love Dexter McCoy. I thought the first game did some great things. Scooped up the fumble, like you alluded to, all over the field. Looks like, but in a sense, kind of a craziness too, because it looked like his first NFL game. So. It's going to take a little time for McCoy. I hope he can earn a spot somehow, some way. I'm really rooting for that kid. I want him to make the roster. But yeah, I think overall, as secondary in general, God, man, they just have a new life to them. It's so good. I don't know if it was an Eric Weddle thing or what, because he was the leader and maybe he was pouting last year and nobody wanted to say anything. Doesn't it look like they're just revigorate? Like they have an energy to them and a bounce, and they're taking pictures on the field
too,
and they're celebrating with each other. It's so cool to see, guys, and I'm rooting for all these guys, Adrian Phillips included. They've been making plays, and it's been nice to see.
What's your thoughts on the safeties, Jake?
The safeties in general, or are we just sticking with Dexter McCoyle here?
Dexter McCoyle and all of them.
Well, I mean, it's. Justin actually took my words on it. I mean, but it couldn't be a more truer statement that the safety position. I mean, you could call it 1A and 1B in between the safeties and the wide receivers as far as who do you cut?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Adrian Phillips has been the early star of the safeties going all the way back to OTAs and the practices and whatever game is not live. But he hasn't really been able to make an impact in a game yet that I've seen that. But now enter Dexter McCoyle and Adrian McDonald and the rest of these guys. One guy from the CFL, another guy who was an undrafted free agent out of Houston, and you see them both making plays.
Yeah.
And Dexter McCoyle, from what he's able to do, not just from the safety standpoint, but from when he's also been able to bring to the table on special teams. I mean, that is really when you could show your versatility in this game and being able to play on that third unit. That is really how you stand out to the coaches and how you make a team. Because ultimately, we don't project Dexter McCoyle to be the starting safety of this team. I know a lot of us, for his physical intangibles, believe that there's all the reasons that we need right there to believe that he should. But when you could show your value in other different facets of the game, when you're not always out there to play on defense, I mean, hey, we know what Darrell Stuckey means and how much he's respected on the special teams unit. But he's still a safety. But he stands out for his special teams work, and Dexter McCoyle can definitely do that as well. So, and like you said, the secondary in general is playing with an attitude, and I'm sure that definitely helps when you've got a legitimate nose tackle that can take up two bodies that can actually run the pocket and put a little bit of pressure on the quarterback to throw some errant throws. But that was Mike McCoy's message to this defensive squad, specifically the cornerbacks early on in the season, that when a pass breakup happens or an interception happens, that it is a team effort that goes into that one play, and it should be celebrated as a team. So I love what I'm seeing as far as the overall excitement from these guys when another guy is doing something good, that the rest of the guys as a team should be supporting them. And I think it's fantastic.
David in the chat room says they all look like they're happy to be a Charger, which I think
Jason,
is,
what are you doing at your house? Weed whacking while you're on the show?
My neighbor's weed whacking right now.
Tell him to knock it off over there, eh?
You put him in that beard that you had?
Gosh,
there we
man.
go. I just closed the window there.
Damn, weed whack's at 8 o'clock at night? What's going on?
I know, right?
What's going on during the show?
David says it looks like they're playing like they're all happy to be a Charger, and if that's that, I don't know if that's a backhanded swipe at Baby Beard or not, but I agree with it if it is.
Sure.
Something that else was brought up in the chat room a while ago. I'm not sure who brought it up. Looks like Derek Watt and Chris Swain. We were expecting a battle for the fullback position, and Jake had even made a wild prediction that he thought there's a possibility that they both make the team. It looks to me like they've made their decision. You hardly see Chris Swain getting any serious playing time out there. Do you think that the decision's been made already, or do you think that that's still an open competition, Jake?
Did I say that both of these guys would make this squad?
You said there's a possibility.
We talked about it, remember? I don't know if
I do remember us talking about it, and I definitely thought there was going to be a competition, but hey, I'll digress. If you said that I said it, then I will own up to it.
It might have been Justin. Justin might have said it. You might have agreed that it was a possibility.
Let me just put it out there before Jake. I did say I could see both of them on this team because of Swain's pedigree from Navy.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Which I know that you and I completely agreed on, and I still believe in that because of Swain's versatility.
Yeah.
Sources, Jason, sources.
Hashtag.
I definitely think when you look at it, a lot of people are on the Swain train right now. I know that. But, I mean, if you focus on Derek Watt, I mean, look, he hasn't had that much time to, really show off, what he could do. But, I mean, go back and look at some of the early running plays from Melvin Gordon that first series during game 1 of the preseason and watch him. Just centralize on him and where he goes. And then look who follows him. Yep. It's Melvin Gordon. And so I think having not just Derek Watt back there, but a fullback in general that can actually lay a block is helping Melvin in his development, because you see a huge difference in what Melvin Gordon is able to do now. He's showing so much more patience when it comes to holes opening up. And I definitely think that Derek Watt has as big of a hand in that as any offensive lineman that's in front of him and creating those type of holes for him. I think when it comes down to final cut day, just from the standpoint of, performance-wise and a true fullback, I mean, I know the versatility's likable from the stand of Chris Swain, and because he can still run the rock, and it would be a nice, idea to possibly even keep him on as a fourth running back. But from what I've seen from Kenneth Farrow and some of the other individuals that are on the running back depth chart, I don't know if I could actually make that type of an argument right now. So I think when it comes to the fullback situation, I still believe that Derek Watt's going to be your starting lead blocker for Melvin Gordon come week 1.
David's predicting. I assume MG3 is Melvin Gordon is gonna have a breakout year this year, and I actually agree.
Don't say
really
it. No predictions.
Don't say anything.
I'm looking forward to the season. Let's just say that. Go ahead, Justin.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Justin.
Good statement there. Do not put predictions on Melvin Gordon, please. Let's just let him play. For me, I wanted to touch on what Jake was talking about. I just, I rewinded a couple plays, and I forget whether it was Titans or the Cardinals, but there were a few instances where MG3 was running behind Derek Watt, and Derek Watt, after the play, got into it with linemen and
Love it.
Pushed back.
Love it.
And got fired up and wouldn't let go of this guy, and a couple times, and they were just having it out. I think it was a middle linebacker. He got through the hole, got to the second level, blocked a guy. Melvin barely got through, whatever. And I just saw the fight in Derek Watt. He's a fighter. He's a guy that you can count on. He's a teammate. He comes from that pedigree. His brother, if he's looking anything like his brother, he wants to probably be the best player he can be and as a role model. So for me, I think the competition's over, to be honest. And I know we said that at the beginning of camp. I like Chris Swain a lot, don't get me wrong. But like Jake alluded to, I'm going to shoot a gosh darn and a dag down. Kenneth Farrow's looked pretty decent too. So, I think this is the guy you roll with into Kansas City. He provides more toughness, and I think that's what they needed to get done this offseason. Matt Slauson, Derek Watt looks like he's going to be a tough guy, tough man up there. Hunter Henry blocking. So everything's good in the hood with the running game here.
Now, moving on for which might actually be part of the running game this year, and that's the tight end position. Jeff Cumberland looks like he tore his Achilles or had an Achilles injury, so he's gone. Now, we weren't all expecting to win games on the back of Jeff Cumberland, but we were expecting contributions from him. That opens the door for a guy like Sean McGrath, Asante Cleveland. Do you think that's
Ladarius Green?
Ladarius Green.
I'm just kidding.
Do you think that opens the door for one of these guys, and do you think that that's going to affect our running game at all? I know that they wanted to bring some more blocking tight ends, kind of work them in onto the roster and work them into the games, and of course the other tight ends. Hunter Henry, which I believe dropped a pass week 1. We were talking about how he's never dropped a pass in his whole life since he was born, and he did drop a pass, although I don't know if it's considered a drop or not because he took a pretty decent hit. He has actually looked good too, but overall, the tight end position, now losing Jeff Cumberland, is that going to affect us? We'll start with you, Justin. Do you see that affecting us? And what are your thoughts with what we've seen from the tight end so far? Of course, Gates hasn't played, but from who you have seen, what are your thoughts on him?
Sure. I think every right to criticize Hunter Henry in his first professional NFL game, and he drops a pass, Mr. Positive over there. Gosh, he's such a solid tight end, and you're over here knocking him. I'm just kidding. No, but I like, obviously unfortunate what happened in a non-contact to Cumberland. Goodness gracious, you bust open your Achilles. And I honestly think if you're going to keep a guy, McGrath's the guy, only because of his blocking prowess. Yeah. He can block, and I've watched it. I mean, I'm not an expert. I just watched the film like everybody else, the game tape, and I rewind a couple plays, and you see him doing a good job. So, and I don't know if that to be entirely true, if he did a good job the entire game, but I did like what I saw, and I think there's room for improvement. We have free agency coming up here. There are going to be difficult cuts made. So there are tight ends out there, and we can add depth there. But overall, I think the tight end play is going to be very solid this year. It's going to be fine.
What do you think, Jake, on the tight end so far?
I was really bummed about Cumberland going down. I really was. I thought when he was signed, I thought he was just what the Chargers needed, considering the fact that there was no blocking tight ends on this team last year, at least anybody who could lay a legitimate block. David Johnson and John Phillips just underperformed so vastly last year. Ladarius Green, of course, we know was not a blocking tight end. Right. So the Chargers needed something, especially when it came into the facet of rebuilding the run game and creating better holes for Melvin Gordon to get through. And Jeff Cumberland made his reputation on his blocking skills. And, it seemed even for certain plays that he could even step in on a whim and be a halfway decent receiving threat as well. So it was another piece of versatility to the Chargers offense that didn't need to go out. And, I like what a lot of people have said, early indicators as far as Hunter Henry's blocking skills and, what he's able to do as being a complete tight end. And, that's all well and good. And I truly believe that, that's going to develop as time goes along. But to have a vet like Cumberland, go down, I specifically I didn't like it. And not to say that Sean McGrath can't do anything. I know we're making a big deal here about the third tight end on the depth chart, but at the same time, when you've got a guy who's made a reputation like that from a blocking tight end standpoint and can show a little bit of versatility in the passing game as well, you definitely don't like to to lose anybody like that, no matter what type of skill position you're talking about.
Moving on to another position that's got a lot of battles going on, and that's linebacker. Turek Williams really looked like he was all over the field against Arizona. I liked what I saw from him. Something interesting that I've seen, Jerry Atauchu is playing kind of late into games. He's a guy that was starting last year, and it almost to me looks like I'm not quite sure why you see him still in the third quarter. And is it because they need to see more from him? I know he played pretty solid last year. Of course, from the middle linebacker, Manti Te'o has looked outstanding. I know there's a lot of haters out there for Manti Te'o, but I've been really, really happy what I saw from him so far in the couple games. And Denzel Perryman almost had that safety. He looks like he's ready to go for year two. Overall thoughts on the linebacker position so far in the first two games. What have you liked so far, Jake, and what have you not liked so far?
Obviously, I think the starters look absolutely phenomenal. When it comes to Jerry Atauchu's place, he is the reason that Kyle Emanuel has superseded him is because he is their base 3-4 linebacker for certain packages. And for what I've seen in camp, heard from the people that are there, he's going to basically come in the game as the third down speed rusher is what his role is going to be now. Now, as far as, why he played so far into the game in week one, it may not have been documented so well by the cameras, but there were a lot of dings into linebackers, especially in that game, which forced Jerry to come back into the game and play that late. Ben Gardner got dinged up. I can't remember, there was somebody else who had gotten dinged up from the linebacker position, but that ultimately is what forced him to play so late in the game. It wasn't by a lack of performance that was there. But from the fact that, again, from what he's now been regulated to as far as a third down edge rusher, this may be why you see him playing so late into the games, because of the fact that maybe, again, we still haven't even seen Jatavius Brown play in there. And I know that he's got, everybody slated him as the middle linebacker as far as what he's ultimately going to be. But, maybe even for his size, it doesn't seem like it's the right decision to do because he is only 5'9". But at Akron, he was able to play outside linebacker as well. So maybe you have another factor. And plus there is a number 3 guy who maybe you expected to come off the edge this, in the preseason, but he just doesn't be there in camp right now. So again, you're just a lot of players down when it comes to certain type of those scenarios, especially that late in the game. So that's really the reflection of why Jerry has been playing so late in the games, not by a lack of performance, in my opinion.
Now, Josh Perry was brought up in the chat room. David mentioned he's been playing solid, but there's room for improvement. I agree exactly with what he's saying. Josh Perry he's looked solid. He hasn't looked spectacular, although I'm not sure what we all expected anyways. But I know they have a lot of high hopes in Josh Perry, maybe a little bit down the road. But what have you seen so far in him the first two games?
I like what I've seen from Josh Perry. I really do. I think that he's coming along actually faster than expected. I think he shows great awareness about where he is on the field as far as being around the play and ultimately coming up and making a tackle. And I believe that he was was he the one that actually forced that fumble in week one against Tennessee?
I thought it was Zubnar, but I'm not positive.
Was it Zubnar? I can't remember which middle linebacker it was, but at the very least, he's been around the ball whenever it's come his direction, and he's been able to make some tackles and make some pretty halfway decent plays out there on the field. So again, fourth round pick, there's a lot of potential and a lot of room to grow for this kid, and he's only going to get better with time. So give him as many reps as possible, let him grow, and especially with whatever happens with Manti Te'o being in a contract year, he may have to be ready to go sooner rather than later, come a year from now.
Yeah, I think that that's what they've done right now is they've made sure that they have someone to take over if Te'o fails or Te'o moves on. What are your thoughts with where the linebackers are so far this preseason, Justin?
Well, I agree with Jake on this. Solid performance by the starters overall. Love what Zubnar's doing. Even special teams. Just these guys can play, and I think we got to give Josh Perry just a little more time. He's a super smart kid, and we all know he's going to get it. He's made plays, but there are mistakes to be had, and that's with every rookie linebacker coming in the league. Look at how week 3 or 4 till Denzel Perryman came in and started making plays and actually figuring out the defense. It's not the most it's not the easiest defense. Pags' defense isn't the easiest to figure out. A lot of different things going on. So for these guys to comprehend all that stuff going on, I believe they can rise above. These guys they brought in here are super talented. And I can't wait to see. I hope Jatavius Brown's playing this week. I don't know if Jake has any insight on that. I would assume he is, but
I would hope so. I'm not making a prediction though.
Sure, I would love to see him because
they no prediction zone.
Right, and you say he's a 5'9" linebacker, but all the kids at Akron, the other linebackers are 5'2", so he was the tallest of the bunch, playing every position. So, but you know what I'm saying. These guys are super talented. And we loved what they did in the draft with the depth-wise, because a Josh Perry or a Jatavius Brown can go on special teams and make the plays they need to make there and improve that aspect of the game as well.
Real quick, Justin, just so I know, Joshua Perry went to what college?
Ohio State.
And he's in camp playing right now as we speak, yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Signed his contract.
He's not a snob.
He wanted to play.
He's not a Meyer snob.
Yeah.
Making sure.
He doesn't have. I don't think he has rich parents, but I'm not sure either.
Well, like you said earlier, Urban Meyer.
I'm going to go off a little bit of a different direction here. Nick Zubnar, he's the one who ended up making that tackle and caused that fumble. I don't want you to think that I hate him, because I don't. I love every single Charger. He was the guy that in the preseason games, he was like the superstar of the second half. He came in, played the second half of the games and made a lot of tackles and made a lot of plays. When he actually got on the field, now maybe it's because he was an undrafted free agent, and maybe he hasn't had enough time in the NFL to reach his full potential. I don't know why, but I've been so unimpressed with him. Unimpressed with him. And I've said this before, all the penalties he made last year, which were a lot, and then even this year out on the field, I know he made that tackle that caused the fumble, but I'm wondering if he, with all of the talent at the linebacker position this year, is he's not a lock. I'm assuming he's not a lock to make the roster. He almost seems like a bubble player, in my opinion, anyways. Is Zubnar going to be on the team when the season starts, Jake?
I don't know. I mean, I think Zubnar's biggest problem is awareness, and he seems like he's just a step behind seeing the play develop as far as what's actually happening, where it's going, and a lot of the times he is just out of position to make plays. Now, again, when he's able to make plays, it's obviously been for a very good reason as far as the impact that he's been able to make when he's there. But a lot of the times when you go back and you're watching the film, and especially during week 1 of Tennessee, wow. I mean, just, a lot of red marks that you can make on some of his, on his report card for that game. That is for sure. So he really just needs to ultimately correct where he is. We could say whatever we want about, Manti Te'o and the negative comments, but at least Te'o is always around the ball. At least
right,
Te'o
exactly.
has the physical awareness as far as where the play is going. Whereas Zubnar, it's just, especially in week 1, it was obvious that there was, it just wasn't there, and he was out of position numerous times. So, I mean, honestly, the middle linebacking core has been revamped with the additions of Perry and Jatavius Brown and a few other individuals, but it's going to be interesting. Could the one of the undrafted favorites of last year be just a one-hit wonder?
Yeah.
And be with this team anymore? I mean, I don't know. He's got the opportunity to really make an impact on one of two places, either for depth for the inside linebackers and being a viable option if he's called upon, or really where I think that he can make his best impact on this team is on special teams. But he needs to ultimately correct his mistakes, because on special teams it's come too many times where he has gotten stupid knucklehead penalties that need to be corrected.
I agree. You can't keep costing us 10 yards every time you go out there. Justin Zubnar, is he going to make the team? And what's your thoughts on him? I think if I remember correctly, you kind of liked him last year during the preseason. But
for sure.
Do you like what you've seen so far from him?
Yeah, he stood out. I mean, you know he's there. I think Jake said it best. He's not the awareness there. It's like when you're playing Madden and you look at the ratings and you're like, okay, should I in my depth chart? I want this depth chart to be very good. Who should I put in my second slot as the backup middle linebacker? This and that. You look at all those things, and he's correct. I mean, I think that's what it just slow plays in his head a little bit. Manti Te'o is just very smart. He can make up maybe what would be a physical aspect with his mind, with his mental capacity. So there's things that each player has, obviously. But yeah, I ultimately don't think he makes the roster this year, only because there's so much depth at this position going in. When you have all these, we could rattle them off: Ingram, Perriman, Te'o, Atauchu. I mean, we could go down the row. We have about we have 10 linebackers, right? Just per se, that could make the team, but they won't. I don't think they'll keep 10. Obviously, I think 8's a good number. I think that's what they normally do, 8 or 9. But I could be wrong on that, around that area. But it's a tough one, and you make your hay in this league on special teams. And I think there's so much depth at the safety position, like we alluded to earlier, that guys like that will make the team over to Zubnar going forward.
Yeah, I would be interested to see if he even makes the team. I think it's going to be a close call. I think he makes it through the first couple cuts, but ultimately it's he's going to have to show what he can do on special teams.
Could be a practice squad guy. I mean, and that's what it is. Get called up here and there.
Yeah. That's for sure. So I know that we talked about him at the beginning, but we'll finish up. We'll wrap things with the defensive line.
Sure.
I know we have a big hole by somebody who's missing on the defensive line, but what have you guys?
Kendall Reyes.
Yes, Kendall Reyes.
Yes.
Kendall Reyes is a big loss, guys. I mean, I can't believe Washington was so quick to sign him for about $40 million. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Brandon Mebane, I know you went out there and you compared him to somebody that we compare. We have a standard for defensive for nose tackle.
We have a lot of standards, and we're still waiting for a lot of these players to live up.
Our standards are pretty low now. That was years ago.
It's been a long time since we've seen a defensive tackle play up to that standard. But 2 weeks in, I'm pretty excited from what I've seen so far from our defensive line. And something that was brought up in the chat room earlier is the fact that we don't even need them to make plays. If they can just tie up those linemen so our linebackers can make plays, we have some pretty good linebackers on this team. So far, I've been pretty happy with what I see from the defensive line. Justin, what's your thoughts on the defensive line and Mebane in particular?
Mebane, especially alluded to earlier in the show. Love what he's doing. Love. Nothing but love, man. I just love this guy. Love the pickup. He is a veteran, 10 years in. But the way, and I'm watching just the TV aspect. I don't watch real film. But, gosh, he takes up a lot of space. He's a smaller defensive tackle, but stout. And he's got a lot of strength. You can see it. He takes up space, and that's what you need in 3-4 defense. You have to have that in a 3-4, and we just haven't had it in years. Love that aspect, and I love what I'm seeing. With Darius Philon and also is it Tenny? Tenny
Palpoy.
I like
Jake's boy.
No, and it is his boy, and I like what I'm seeing. I think. Even without, we won't mention his name on the show, even without F-Ed from Ohio State, the Ohio State University, I think that the rotation at that spot could be very deadly. Like, not deadly, I shouldn't say deadly. That's kind of a really strong word. I think it could be very strong.
Solid.
Solid. I think these guys can do their part and make plays out there. And I don't have to worry about Corey Liuget because on game days, I know he can show up. He's just been the only guy there for years. So, he's got a little help there, and let the linebackers kind of clean up the mess. It should be a fun year, guys. If eventually we can get F-Head into camp, I think it would make for even better defensive line.
What's your thoughts defensive line play so far, Jake, and what we're going to see this year?
Man, I like really how you brought up the standards because, I'm watching that game this last week, and, I saw something that I have yet to see, or technically we haven't seen from any defensive tackle really,
right,
that the Chargers have brought in since the days of Big Jamal Williams. But
sure.
Pass that was actually just a short, right out in the flat, and Perriman was ultimately the one that made the tackle. But from where they had showed the replay, of Perriman making the tackle, you look at the defensive line, and there's Mebane going up against two defensive linemen.
Love it.
I mean, really, when was the last time that you could say that a defensive tackle garnered that much respect to say, we can't cover this guy with just one guy. We need to put a second guy on him. And when you have somebody like that who can anchor the line the way that he does, it just offers so much more potential for the rest of the players around him. And definitely increases the amount of chances that you're going to be getting to the quarterback. And on top of that, it was really refreshing to hear Jason Verrett's comments in the middle part of the game when he said, hey, who was it that ultimately broke down the team in the locker room and gave them a motivational speech? It was Brandon Mebane.
Right.
So, for a guy who hasn't even been with his team this long, not only is he letting his play speak for itself, out on the field, but the leadership that it sounds like that he's already commanded and the respect that he's commanded in the locker room already is definitely something that cannot go under the radar whatsoever.
And how much do the secondary appreciate it when the defensive tackles, they're wreaking havoc, out there, allowing them to make plays.
Exactly.
And a guy like Mebane doesn't mind going in there and battling two guys and getting no stats if the guys behind him are making plays.
And that's ultimately what I was trying to touch on earlier in this show. I just, when you looked at from outsiders' perspective and you see what the Chargers did this offseason, you go, man, Joey Bosa, I shouldn't have said his name, Mebane, and Legit, and you go, that's really formidable. That's a really solid defensive line. And I was so excited to see the push because Bosa can get under a guy and get after a tackle. He drives guys back.
He's practicing like a madman.
Well, hey, that's what the agent says, man.
Yeah.
Tom Conant. But that's what you were looking forward to. And unfortunately that's not going to happen, but Darius Philon should have been a second round pick. I mean, it's true. He has potential, and I think ultimately him and Tinny Palapoy and mixing time with Ryan Carruthers, because we've all liked these guys, but they can do some damage, and they're going to be just fine.
We're going to have a really good rotation on that defensive line. One guy who is not going to be rotating in and out of it for the first 4 weeks. David brought that up in the chat room. I actually did have it written down. I didn't know if we're going to talk about it or not, but we are going to talk about that, and that's Damian Square. He's suspended 4 games for missing a drug test, and when I'll tell you what, here's what I have to say about that. If I was scheduled for first of all, if I was getting drug tested and I knew I wasn't going to pass, I'd skip it too, because at least now he can say he can make up whatever excuse he can for missing it, but he's never tested positive. But that tells me personally that he was going to test positive, and that's why he missed it. Jake, do you have anything to add to that or anything to say about that at all?
Look, here's the difference. As far as I know, it was reported that Le'Veon Bell was suspended because he had missed his drug test.
Sure.
And they reduced
but Le'Veon Bell
too.
is adamantly appealing his suspension. I think it was like within 5 minutes of the Damian Square getting suspended earlier today that he had already came out and owned up to his mistake, which is all well and good. That is what I would want to accept from any player that is there. But like you said, usually when the time comes up that you miss a drug test, it's possibly a clear indicator that your chances of passing were not that good.
Right.
And even if that was the case, hey, Damian Square owned up to it. Hey, that's all well and good, but that does not do anything to assist your defensive line, especially for a guy who for the second unit was getting some pretty decent production over these last 2 weeks for what he was able to do.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a great rotational guy, behind Brennan Meebane. And definitely he was keeping Ryan Carruthers off of his back for a while for the fact that he was able to be producing the way that he was over these last couple of weeks. I think he's had 1 or 2 sacks over these last couple of weeks, but he's been in on a number of plays in the backfield that really impressed me for the fact that, since we acquired him from Philadelphia a couple of years ago, that, he's kind of had his coming out party these last couple of weeks in terms of what he can do. So hopefully, those first 4 weeks of the season, the Chargers won't be too hampered by his loss. It still is a loss, though. And hopefully it's not going to be one that is ultimately going to affect the Chargers' defensive line more so specifically in the run game above everything else.
Hey, Jake, I know we're winding down. I wanted to get your opinion. I know they can look for help on the outside for defensive end with this whole holdout crap. Justin Tuck has been mentioned. I don't know if that's the route to go. He's a little veteran. I agree, but there's been names out there. Is there anybody that you might be looking, if this thing goes till week 1 or whatever this holdout's going to be? As you mentioned, there's depth behind some of these guys. Is there a veteran presence you think might get cut or have an inkling to get cut on any of these teams out there?
I honestly have no idea. I mean, if we're gonna talk about bringing anybody in that is currently not with a team right now, I would highly advise against it. It's no different than trying to get your number 3 pick into camp who hasn't practiced.
Right, exactly.
And for the fact that a lot of these guys, don't have the age advantage. Age is not definitely on their side. So, I mean, what realistic impact could you expect from any of these guys? You'd have a better opportunity of waiting, especially since we have cuts following this week of football. The rosters have to be trimmed from 90 to 75. So you have the better potential to wait and see what possibly might come on the market if you're looking to temporarily fill that Band-Aid or, basically use that person as a Band-Aid along the defensive line to soften the blow of losing a little bit of depth and, one of your high-profile players not being, ready come the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think he blew a chance to maybe be a back to Damian Square. I think he blew a chance to really be a part of this team, and he had the opportunity to be a major contributor on defense. I think it's too late right now to add somebody. If you're going to add a free agent, I'm thinking of maybe offensive line depth.
Sure.
That's it. We're not gonna be really adding anybody to contribute. And to be honest with you, I'm pretty happy with every single position, top to bottom, right now with what we have depth.
Yeah, definitely.
There's your positive, Peter. I really liked it when you were pissed off earlier and when you were playing.
He was throwing shit. I saw him on Skype.
Come on.
I can vouch for it.
I'm so tired of
Jason. Before this show is over, aside from the Joey Bosa situation, I want you to give me either one player or one position, and you can't say quarterback either, that you do not like.
Before today's show is over?
In the next 30 seconds, I would hope that you'd be able to figure something out.
Running back.
Let me
Who's happy with Melvin Gordon?
I love them all, man.
Well, he's doing good in the preseason, but
I'm happy with everything that I mean.
You are not. This is you being the positive moderator.
I know. I love it. I love all the positions. I really do. I was worried about the safety position.
Good with long snapper?
I love our long snapper. I love our punter.
Need David Ben back?
No, I love.
Anderson will show up to the games. Dude.
I love our special teams. Here's where I'm not happy.
Okay.
Here's where I'm not happy. Kickoff return.
Return. They don't get an opportunity.
That's our wide.
We've already talked about. So I'll say special teams. I'll say special teams is the one thing that. Did
they give up a touchdown or something?
Our special teams.
On special teams.
Our special teams. The last couple years have not been have not lived up to the expectations that they had built over the last few years. And
Sure.
I'll point out two guys. One guy that I already mentioned, Nick Zubnar, but another guy is Daryl Stuckey. I think that over the last few years, he's rotated into the starting lineup or been moved into defense too much, and I think that more of his time is spent working on his defense as a safety. He's spent less time working on special teams, and I think that he is not the special teams player that he used to be.
I think you're looking past the egg here. I think Drew Kaiser has been phenomenal.
Oh, yes. Love him.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, I think if you're focusing on Daryl Stuckey with this whole thing, Mr. Positive Patty, I think you're hitting the wrong note, man. I really do.
I'm trying to find something.
So you're saying
this
team is Super Bowl ready?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's
nice.
what I'm saying.
Awesome. Well, you know what?
I can't predict it, though. I'm not
Don't
gonna
say a flipping word. We got prediction shows coming up. We cannot spoil the show.
What are your?
But Drew Kaiser's been phenomenal. I love this kid.
Which, by the way, those 2 delay of game penalties that were taken right before he makes, those were intentional.
Yes.
Because if he would have kicked that sucker on those 2 that just so happened to land within the 10-yard line, they would have. I think that's a strategy that the Chargers should employ every single time is take that extra 5 yards because this can kick it a mile.
Yeah, I agree.
Best punter in the draft. That's why you take a guy like that.
I like what I've seen from him. I'm real happy from Lambeau. I'm not as happy with our kick coverage, and I'm not as happy with our kick return.
Right.
What are your? Do you agree with what I said on Stuckey? By the way, I've mentioned it kind of before, Jake, but I've never really never really got your take on it before. Do you think that Stuckey is the special teams player that he once was?
Jason, this is how I'm going to present my answer to you. Okay, I want you to go back, and I want you to flip on the Chargers versus Arizona, and I want you to go back to the first time that there is going to be a kick return from Arizona.
Uh-huh.
I want you to watch Daryl Stuckey, and not just watch him, but watch how many people are covering Darrell Stuckey.
Okay.
When you can command more than one person on special teams, it reminds you of the days of Kasim Osgood, and we all the special teams player that Kasim was. That shows you the type, and ultimately Stuckey ended up making the tackle despite the fact that he was covered by these 2 individuals. So go back, watch that play. Still shows you the respect that the opposing players in this league have for Stuckey when it comes to a special teams threat.
So I could be wrong on him then, because I'll tell you what, even if he's not making a tackle, if he's taking up 2 guys, then he's doing his job. Somebody else out there is not getting taken up, and they need to make the play. So maybe we need some other guys to step up on special teams.
I give you an A for effort.
He tried.
He
tried.
You boxed me in. You tried to make me say something negative, and the only thing I could say negative was about somebody who's not even on the team.
Usually I'm negative, but that's when the season starts.
That's when the season starts.
So that's week 3.
A few things before we wrap things up. I do want to remind everybody once again, we are going to be next Sunday out at Cali Comfort, home of the Low and Slow Barbecue. Podcast is going to start at 8:30 to 10.
Yeah.
This Sunday. This coming Sunday. Yeah, Sunday, August 28th.
Better be there,
Did I say
Jake.
next?
You better take an Uber down, all right?
Dude, are you kidding me, man? I'm taking a canoe at 5:30 in the morning.
Canoe? That's going to take you hours. Get out of it.
Stop.
I'm going to send you up an Uber, all right?
I want to invite everybody that's in the chat room, come out and visit us, hang out with us. We'll be live. We'll be talking to everybody. Throw on a headset. Be part of the show. David Drogmeyer, who's been on our show before, he was in the chat room a lot. Couple things. Number one, I really like for you in the future. We've kind of flipped our show into almost like a roundtable discussion, which has made it a lot of fun. And I'd like to have you be part of that maybe sometime, where you could call in or come in via Skype and be part of that roundtable discussion, because it's a lot of fun. I know that we've had Travis do that before. But anybody out there, come down to Cali Comfort this Sunday, August 28th. Podcast will start at 8:30. It's going to go right up till the 10 o'clock kickoff. We've done it before. Tons of fun. And then, of course, we're going to stay and we're going to watch the game. We're going to drink beer. We're going to eat barbecue.
Yes, sir.
Tons of fun. We'll be talking about kind of giving you an example of what we do for the pregame, because we do a pregame show every game.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday, 9 to 10. Every Sunday, no matter what time the game is, we do the show at 9 to 10. And it's a lot of fun as well. We'll be doing some more on location stuff. We're going to try and do stuff down at the stadium, which we've done before. So participation is what makes us do this. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. But if we get the participation, we absolutely would love to. We love to do it if we can get the participation. I'm going to read this in the chat room. Larry Joe's helping me out here with somebody to hate on. He says, I'll help you out, Jason. Lambeau has pissed me off. Damn show off making his field goals look easy and not having his kickoffs reach the back of the end zone consistently. Someone get that guy to practice.
One thing before we go, and I wanted to just get both your opinions real quick.
Sure.
When can we bring back the AFL 1963 jerseys, powder blue, instead of the crappy new version? Like, is anybody have any inkling when that can go away? Like, I'd love to see the numbers on the helmet again, and I want to see that old school powder blue, but does anybody have any idea when they might bust that out?
I don't want them to.
I do. Why?
That's
our heritage.
I like it better when they only do it once in a while.
No, they haven't done it in years.
Which will make it so
I
great
understand.
the next time they do it.
I mean, look at how far. I mean, the Packers really throw back their jerseys when they have their throwback time.
So the Steelers, look at those ugly things.
Exactly. I mean, so I get it. Maybe you should just create. I mean, I know they do. There's certain weeks for the teams to have their throwback jerseys, and for the Chargers, just because it happens to be in the new form of the jersey, it's still the powder blues.
Yeah.
But at the same token,
really.
Hey, go a full old school, and I love it.
Once in a while.
Yeah, I love it. Why not bring that aspect back?
I just wanted to get your guys' opinion because it's been a while. It's been a long time. I remember those Monday night games. We'd have them, and LT days. He looked so freaking sick behind that mask. And he'd run all over everybody, and we just had a blast watching Charger games. So it bugs me a little.
Made a great PR suggestion.
Yeah.
And follow me on this here.
Yeah.
But what have you been seeing a lot of advertisements been running during the Chargers game, and who specifically has been talking sideline? Would that not be just a perfect coin in that bucket as far as, hey, remember the legacy that this team has in San Diego? Let's bring back in the new form, just seeing it with all the new players' names on it, but bring back the old 60s Chargers jerseys.
Yes.
I think that's fantastic.
If you want to gravitate towards a new stadium and get that band back together, dude, that's the best way to do it, isn't it?
I love it.
I think the best way to do it is to win.
No, it is. Winning cures all, but God, if they're looking good doing it, that's going to be phenomenal.
I don't mind them bringing them back once in a while, but I don't know. It makes you like them more when they don't do it too often.
For sure.
All right, I think that's going to wrap things up for us. We've talked enough. We spent the first 3/4 of the show talking about the guy who's not even there.
That's all right. That's what the subject is.
We did have the opportunity to get to a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Once again, Jake, thank you so much for hanging out, for hanging in there. We skipped last week's show, so we appreciate you hanging in there with us and being part of tonight's and every week's show, of course, bringing a more of an insider perspective. Justin and I, we have more of a fan's outlook sometimes.
For sure.
Sometimes you need to bring us back to center. So
yeah, it's a good
Jason,
thing.
I just want to see you lose your mind a little bit more often. Look,
it's great,
I'm
isn't it?
all for you being the positive guy around here. Definitely adds some differential to this group because I know that, Justin and myself and Josh and Mike included that, especially Mike with the Ovaltine aspect, he the negativity line, definitely rides, especially when the season starts. It's definitely going to be gravitating more towards the negative side of things. So you bring a balance to the group. But when you lose it, it's
great.
Like, it's like something in like a TV series or, a wrestling timeline that you wouldn't expect.
Jake, after the show, I'm going to run over to Jason's house and check his blood pressure.
He's going to give me a hug. That's what I need is a hug.
I'll make sure he's on his meds and he's good to go take a nice night of sleep,
Yeah. You guys ever see the movie Seven? It's like the twist in that movie.
Yes.
Dude,
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Yes.
This is what the type of feeling I get when Jason starts to lose it and just starts pounding the table in anger.
Yeah.
I love it.
I did give the table a good pounding. I just get tired of people talking about Weddle. And anyways, we don't want to get into that again.
Like a G-rated porno.
What's
the most professional?
The most professional. I love that.
I tried so hard to stay professional today too.
You know what? You try.
Once again, thanks a lot, Jake. You can follow him at Jake T. Hefner on Twitter. And
hey, we changed our Sports Junkies account.
Oh, yeah, go for it, yeah.
I took over that from Joshua. Not a lot of traction there for a little bit, but it's at Sports Junkies SD now. Sports Junkies SD. Follow us. We're always promoting the show.
It's going to be a little bit more active.
Now. More active, and give us a follow. That's all.
Give us a follow and follow Jake, of course, and you can read his articles at boltbeat.com. You got anything coming up that we should be looking for, Jake?
We're going to have a lot of news over here for the next week. We don't know who's ultimately going to be the final 75 that are on the roster.
Yep.
After this first round of cuts. So there's definitely going to be a lot that's going to be coming out of this game. Biggest preseason game of the year. A lot of guys that need to step up.
Right.
So the guys that are here. We're going to have a lot of good spotting. And the closer that we get to the regular season, it's just going to keep getting better and better. So I can't wait to start putting some of this stuff out and these things together.
Absolutely. Check them out. Very, very fun. Very, very fun and informative reads. Really, really interesting articles. A little bit of a different angle on some things, which is refreshing because you get all the same old blah 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 when you go to those other websites. So go check them out. And listen to us every Wednesday. We promise we're going to do our best to get here every Wednesday at 7:00. Tons of fun when we get the action in the chat room. David looks like he is willing to be part of the roundtable discussion in the future. We'd love to bring him back in. He's got another interesting perspective, and he does his own podcast as well, so check him out. Justin, Jake, appreciate you guys both being in here. I think that's going to wrap things up for us.
All right.
So we will see everybody out there. Come out this
August
Sunday.
28th.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Be there nice and early. We're going to be there. We're going to be talking Chargers. We're going to be eating. We're going to be drinking. We're going to be having lots of fun. So we'll see you guys Sunday. And then for those of you who don't make it out there Sunday, we'll see you guys all next Wednesday. San Diego Sports Junkies show for the fans.
By the fans.
And we are out.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.